Hey, so I'm recording this a little bit ahead of time. I'm recording this right after recording the video on Benjamin Kyle, which probably by the time this comes out, it might have been out for about a week or something like that. And Benjamin Kyle, if you haven't seen it over on the channel, he's a guy who it's basically an amnesia case, but it gets a lot more complicated than that. Once you actually look into the story, it's super fascinating. He basically woke up outside of a Burger King. He had been beaten really bad. He was naked. He had no ID on him. He was scraggly, long hair, long fingernails, dirty, covered in ants. So he barely survived. And I'm realizing now that a point that I did not make in that video that should have been in there, maybe I'll wind up adding it. But one of the things that they were saying when I was researching this video was that there's people, like thousands of people every year, that get found bodies in places that are unidentified, the Jane and John Does of the world. And it was basically making the point that if Benjamin Kyle had died behind that dumpster, he would have just been another one of the thousands of unnamed people that die every single year, which is a horrible thing. It's a horrible tragedy that people die that way just because they've lost touch with all family and all, outside world, and they pass away and nobody knows who they are. It's sad. That's not the point of where I'm going here. That's not what I'm talking about. The point is, and I'll put a link here and go check out that video if you don't know what I'm talking about, but it's a story of amnesia, but what it basically came down to was that he had what they call a dissociative fugue. Like he entered a fugue state. And what that basically means is your brain, basically, it's to escape some kind of painful trauma or memories. It's basically your brain just shuts off and says, I'm gonna be somebody else now. And you just adopt a different personality, and a lot of them are transient, so they'll like move a lot to other places. And that's what happened to Benjamin Kyle. So as I'm researching this, and I'm hearing all about dissociative fugue states and just dissociation in general, it prompted me to talk about this on this channel. And I don't know that I've ever really talked about it here before. I think I might have. It's not something I've really hidden or anything. I have these things that have been happening since like 2010. That was the first time that it happened. I remember I was actually on vacation with my wife. It was the last time we actually got out of the country on a trip because we bought a house and became house poor. But we were in France, and I was actually driving in France. They have fantastic highways there, by the way. And I was driving, and it was like I had this memory come to me, but I couldn't quite place it. You know that thing where like a memory pops up and you're like, what was that? Where was that? And the more I focused on that memory, I felt, and this is really hard to explain, but I felt like I was being sucked into the memory in some way. Like I kind of lost myself in it. I got a little bit of tunnel vision. Now I was driving at the time, so it's a little extra scary. But I didn't lose consciousness. I didn't pass out. I didn't go off the road or anything. Like I was perfectly fine. But my brain just kind of went to this weird place where it's like for a second, I went into the memory in my head. That was the first time it happened. It was not the last. It happened more and more over time. Sometimes they were associated with stressful periods. Sometimes after I worked out or during a workout when my body was being stressed, my brain would do this. And I didn't know what to call them. I didn't really know what it was. I called them weirdness attacks because that was the only way I could describe it. It was just weird. I just kind of slipped into this weird state for a couple minutes. And there have been times, and I don't mean to say all this to make you guys worry about me or anything like that. There's nothing to worry about here. And I've talked to therapists about it and doctors, and nobody's that concerned. I even got an EEG done once upon a time to make sure it wasn't like a seizure. Like some doctors thought it might have been a seizure. I got an MRI done, no tumors or anything like that. So it's all good. But the more I've looked into it and the more I've read about this whole dissociative state thing, I realize that's really what it is. I kind of slip into what they call a dissociative state. They only last for a couple of minutes, maybe even 30 seconds. And honestly, if you were talking to me, you probably wouldn't even know it was happening. Because it would probably just look like I just like was lost in my thoughts for a second. I just kind of looked off for a minute. And sometimes I kind of I feel it in my chest. It's like a body thing. Like I can feel it sort of taking over my body, kind of tingly. Sometimes my hands actually tingle a little bit, like it's weird nerves and stuff. And there have been some that have hit me so hard that when I came out of it, again, 30 seconds or a minute later, even not even that really, 30 seconds might be a long one. But I came out of it. There's one specifically that I'm thinking of right now. I was downstairs in my living room on the couch, and it happened. And when I snapped out of it, for a brief moment, I kind of didn't know where I was. I mean, I knew I was in my living room. Like, my brain knew I was in my home, but it felt like I'd never been there before. It's hard to explain. Like, I knew logically that it was my living room and that that's where I was and that I was safe and everything was fine. But it just felt emotionally like I'd never been in that room before. It's like I was looking around at the room with fresh eyes. Most of them aren't that bad. And honestly, if I feel one coming on and say I am driving or I'm in a place where it's just not a good time to do this, I can kind of hold it off. If I can kind of distract myself or turn up some music or just think about something else, or even if I was just sitting here, it's like, okay, I'm going to focus on this pen. I'm just going to focus on the pen. Like that might be enough to distract me. But I mean, if I'm just hanging out at my home and everything's fine, I might just kind of slip into it and just let it happen. Because it's not scary, really. In fact, it's kind of comforting. And that's what I thought. That's where I've kind of come to on this, is that it's like a way for my brain to kind of slip out of whatever stress it might be feeling. And it's not hard stress. Like a lot of times it's literally like I'm just trying to think of a name. It's usually me trying to think of a memory, or a memory comes to me and I'm trying to place it. What movie was that from? What line was that from? Or I'll hear a melody from a song and I can't quite place it. And it's like, I know this is very low stress level. It's not like life or death or anything like that, but it's like my brain is stressing over what that memory was, and that tiny amount of stress causes it to just kind of flip out into this dissociative state. Now, having said that, if I'm in a real, serious, stressful situation, it might happen, it might not happen, but it's not necessarily tied to that. It's very random and it's very weird, and I never see it coming. Now, in fact, I actually captured this on video. During one of the videos I was making when I was redoing the whole setup over here around the beginning of the year. I captured it on a video, and here's what it looks like. Well, all right, gang, it's pretty much ready to reveal. So that was kind of a particularly hard one. When I say hard, it just means it just really takes you over. And for a minute, like you just kind of can't put your words together. It really just kind of takes you over, and you just kind of like stop, and you just kind of have to let it pass. And sometimes I give a little, and just let it slip by. But anyway, I don't know. I just kind of felt like I wanted to do a video about that because, researching the Benjamin Kyle video and hearing about dissociative states, I don't know how common they are, and I don't know how much people know about them. But it's something that I've started, kind of dealing with in the last 10 years or so of my life. Again, it's not something that I worry about, and I don't want you guys to worry about it. It's not something that I'm afraid of. I've been to the doctors. They've checked me out. All the physical stuff seems to be fine. So there's no reason to be concerned, but it's just this thing that my brain does. I don't know. But anyway, no, if you guys have had any experiences with this, maybe you have them worse than I do, or maybe you've had the exact same thing or something smaller, talk about it down below. I mean, I always feel like it's important to share these kinds of warts in my life with you guys, because I always find out that there's far more people out there that have this same situation. And so if you have it and you want to share down below, or maybe you've heard of this and have had a similar experience and didn't really know what it was. Maybe there's something down in the comments that would help you out. We're all not alone in this. This is all stuff that we all deal with. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to talk about it, put it out there. Let me know what you guys think. And just real quick before I go, to wrap things up, again, I've got to announce real quick about Fully Charged Live in Austin on the 1st and 2nd of February. Do go check that out if you're at all interested in EVs and renewable energy and just cool, just transition of technology in the energy sector. It's a bunch of really important stuff, and it's really cool. And I'm going to be there. I'm going to be doing a live Answers with Joe thing. We're going to be doing a live Our Ludicrous Future thing. So I'm going to be on various panels. It's going to be fun. So if you're interested, I'll put a link down below. Go check it out. All right, that's it. Thanks, you guys. Let me know what you think. I'll catch you later. Bye.